What are you laughing about?
I can't even say it in the first couple of minutes.
We'll put a pin in that.
Put a pin in that.
Yeah. Will you remember?
Yeah.
Okay.
Maybe. We'll see.
Yeah. You know we're off to a great start when the first thought we have is censored. It's too hot for YouTube. That's why you should join us on patreon.com/Church of Chill, where we say whatever. Who cares?
It's where it's all the true shenanigans.
Yeah, we don't get censored or shadow banned or whatever on there. So, yeah, lots of good stuff on there.
Mm-hmm.
So, what's going on, Cass? What do you want me to say?
Oh my gosh. I mean, the visual, I just can't even. I'm stuck in a visual of a
Yeah.
49. What was it? I'm going to just say it. We can just say it. We just can't curse.
I don't care. Yeah.
What was it?
Our girl Ayla, who you might know from our film Cam Girls. She's the mime in Cam Girls. And she took 2.5 hits of acid in our movie Sweet Nothing, which I love that movie.
It's a great movie.
She's our dear friend. She, for her birthday a couple nights ago, had a 42-person gangbang. And Devin just informed us about it. I'm not on Twitter anymore, so I don't know about this stuff. It's public knowledge. It's not like we're spilling the beans on somebody. But
she's always pushing the boundaries.
Oh, yeah. Yeah.
Yeah.
Good for her. Do it while you're young. Do it while you can. Do it while 42 dudes would be interested enough and be able to get it up for that kind of thing.
The details of it are just hilarious, though.
Yeah.
Because she's so data-oriented. It's like you take, I don't know if Ayla's a self-proclaimed autistic person, but she's on the spectrum of something.
Yeah.
You know? Yeah. So she's like very data-organized, and so she breaks it into like, this many people got hard. This many people.
It goes back even further than that.
What do you mean?
They invited like hundreds of people. Let me see if I can. I'm dealing with screenshots from. He's sending me stuff right now. The data, the graph is 1,604 people were surveyed.
Whoa. Okay.
You know, like basically they put out word like, hey, we're doing a gangbang. Ayla's the subject. And
I gotta get back on Twitter, man.
Like she's honestly one of the few people that I was interested in following on Twitter. That's why I was like, look, I could talk to Ayla if I want. I don't need to be on her Twitter. I don't need to be hanging around a fucking dead platform, to see what Ayla's up to. But 1,604 people were surveyed for it. 828 failed the auto filter. 328 failed the manual filter. 448 passed the manual filter. Of those, 197 they didn't contact, probably because she wasn't like attracted enough to them or whatever. 251 were contacted. 143 of them did not respond. 83 did respond. 25 friends then joined. Of the 83 that did respond, they rejected 21 of them. So 87 people got invited. 31 didn't get a ticket. 56 got a ticket. 13 canceled. 43 did STI tests. 1 didn't show. So 42 showed up. Of them, 5 didn't bang Ayla. 37 penetrated Ayla. 17 came in Ayla. 5 came in a fluffer. 15 didn't come.
Imagine
what a scene.
Imagine wanting to relate with Ayla and then you just lose it in a fluffer.
Yeah, that's actually probably...
You went through all that trouble. You took 5 surveys. You got STI tested. We did an interview. And then you
bought a ticket to this thing.
You bought a ticket.
You're there at the big show. And,
I wonder how much the tickets were. That's an interesting detail.
I don't even think that these things end up being a moneymaker for her. I think it's more like she genuinely wants to do this. Like that. If there's one thing, like we've hung out with Ayla a lot. We've partied with her a lot. She is the first ever guest on our podcast.
Oh yeah.
The first episode of Variate Podcast was with Ayla. However many years ago, 9 or 10 years ago. The next day she gave us acid for the first time. A week after that she gave us DMT for the first time. And then she moved to New York, so we got to hang out a lot. And we ended up filming her for our movie Sweet Nothing, taking 2.5 hits of acid. And yeah, we've been friends for like 11, 12 years.
She's very curious.
She
She asks a lot of questions.
Really one of a kind. She really is. And she's taught us a lot.
Like, I think she did this just also partly because she was curious what would happen.
Yeah.
And imagine more people had passed that test. She probably would have lined up more people.
Yeah.
Like,
totally.
it really was limited to, like, how many people could...
This was a birthday blowout for her. What a scene. Do you want me to read Devon's sending me a screenshot from her Substack.
Yeah. I mean, yeah. It's all I can think about in this moment.
All right.
So.
Yeah. We'll see where this leads us. Lots of men had trouble getting hard, which is deeply understandable because practically for them, this experience was a bit like being a breeder in a cow pen. The way it worked was a few men volunteers held me down on a bed and a line of guys approached. Once a guy was sufficiently hard, he'd come bang me, summoned by organizers yelling, "Anybody got a hard, you know what? Line yourself up by hardness." They had to jack themselves off furiously, and when they did, they got 3 minutes to attempt to finish. I'm not going to use all the words so we don't get flagged or whatever.
Yeah.
When they did, they got 3 minutes to attempt to finish while banging me, while I was closely surrounded by other men who were preventing me from biting or kicking anyone for kink reasons. They also had to switch condoms between other fluffers and me. This was extreme hard mode, or soft mode, and I'm honestly surprised as many men got hard as they did.
I would think that some of them were on retention for some time going into that.
Yeah. Who knows? Like, isn't this what, like, Viagra and Blue Chews and stuff like that's for? I mean, sometimes, like, well, whatever, get into a second. Devin just sent me this. I haven't read this yet. One of them, a guy who bought the stickers, was a virgin. We asked if we could celebrate his first time, and he said yes. The wackier, the better, I believe. So we had him go first. He literally said Leroy Jenkins as he entered and popped confetti over him when he finished, and I signed a personalized gift for him. He was also wearing a heart rate monitor and shared the data with me, and she has a screenshot of the heart rate data. What a scene, man. Oh, my God.
Wow.
Yeah. She's probably the person that's taken the most acid of anyone we know.
Definitely.
And she comes from like extremist Christian. She was like in a Christian cult.
Yeah. Careful how extreme you raise your kids. You might get the opposite.
Yeah, totally. Like, I think like she wasn't like allowed to know about sex or, relate with boys in any way.
They
And
like found out about it in a book at like 17 or
yeah,
something.
Yeah. Like, yeah. God, it just totally kept sheltered. And she has 2 sisters, and I think they end up being sex workers too. And her dad is like a very famous, prominent Christian leader who's like been on the Daily Show and gotten like trolled by Jon Stewart and shit. So yeah, she pretty much turned out the complete opposite of the way her parents wanted to. But I think she actually still relates with them. I think she still goes and visits her parents. We've had Ayla on the podcast a bunch. We'll have to have her back on. She's back in the Old Testament days. Those episodes you can't find anymore. But we'll have to get her back on and get some updates about her life. Because that is a wild scene. We've seen some wild scenes. That one takes the cake. I mean,
you hear about people doing this stuff, and there are people who really get off on it. And I don't necessarily think that Ayla gets off on it, like the gangbang aspect, as much as she gets off on
collecting data,
like what's going to happen. Like she's using her body as like, and this experience of life as like a data collection. And which is, I mean, God bless her. I
mean, when it comes down to it, we've had those kind of downloads. I remember the first time we took acid was with Ayla, and we were walking around the Seattle neighborhood, and it was raining, and you're like touching leaves and stuff, and you're like, whoa, we're like, you were kind of describing life in that way.
Yeah, no,
like we're down here kind of like collecting data, collecting experiences, like figuring out what things are, what they feel like.
Well, because we're all part of this like universal God, and we're all having like very unique experiences, and we're downloading data.
Yeah, that's why the Godhead splintered out into all of us humans, so we could have, a multitude of experiences.
I also believe that's why, gender's expanding.
Mm-hmm.
Sexual prowess is expanding. It's like, all right, we've done the missionary thing a couple
contracting,
times.
I guess, in most cases. It's just had a lot of guys had a hard time getting hard.
You can't even like the temptation is to be like, how would you feel, or just like so far removed from any universe you'd exist in that it's like it's not even a interesting question
for me.
Yeah, but I'll ask
I
you.
would not be able to perform in that situation.
Yeah, I don't think so either.
I wouldn't be able to barely be there.
Yeah, you'd be like.
Yeah, like when we got involved with making that movie Cam Girls, we went out to Vegas because one of the producers on it, Sophia Locke, former Cam Girl, I think she might be doing it again.
Yeah, I think she's like kink.com and does her own thing now, I think.
But she like came on as a producer and was like basically like our way of getting into the world. Like they were really hard to cast because everyone's so suspicious because they have a bunch of dudes out there trying to get more information from them and stuff. So it was like hard thing to break into, even though we're like, hey, we're filmmakers, we're making this film. Like we weren't getting a lot of response. And then Sophia was like, I see what you guys are doing. I know what you're all about. Come out to, I'm doing like a cam girl house out in Vegas, like meaning like there's going to be 20 girls staying in this house with me for a week camming. Come out and shoot. And we were able to, we were able to shoot like 20 girls in a week and put together a trailer, which we used the trailer then to get on Kickstarter and raise the money to make the movie. So thank God for Sophia Locke. But at the end of that week, she had like a little party where like dudes were allowed there. Like it's like, we've been camming all week, buy an expensive ticket to this party and come here. And Ayla was fucking everyone. Like it was crazy. We went there and I was like, oh, this is like, it's like kind of like a normal party. Like people are socializing like normal. Girls are very scantily clad. And then like you turn the corner and it's like, oh, Ayla's fucking somebody with a strap on over there.
Sophia.
She was fucking Sophia with the strap on, and it was just like, oh my God. And then it's just like the night kind of like kept going up from there, and it was like, oh wow, this is kind of an intense scene. Doesn't turn me on at all. That's just me personally. And yeah, I don't know what you label it, but I feel like I need to have somewhat of a connection with a woman.
Demisexual.
Yeah. I don't think that was always the case, but like now I'm in my 40s. And
yeah, when you're young and you just want to come in anything, it just maybe changes a little bit.
Yeah, we're past the point that YouTube would censor us.
Okay.
I believe.
I said come. But come is like one of those words it's hard to censor because
yeah.
Come as you may, whatever.
Yeah, it's the only word I've ever typed into Patreon that it just won't let you type CUM into Patreon.
Really?
Yeah. It's weird. I can write any other curse word, but when I wrote that, it just like
why were you
deleted
writing
the word,
it?
delete the word. It was something on Boys Club. It was something like I was trying to I don't know, I was just trying to be funny. But yeah, that was man, if we look back, if we like traced like how long have we been together? Like 13, 14 years. The making of Cam Girls was definitely like such a huge turning point in our life.
Yeah.
We learned about like really it's where we fully got initiated in the psychedelic realm, and we started making a lot of friends that were sex workers and polyamorous. And
well, you meet someone like Ayla and she's a consciousness expander, besides just like actually dosing you.
Yeah.
And she's dosed many people.
Yeah.
And decided that was not the best idea because she was concerned for her own safety after having some weird experiences dosing some guys who were like,
oh my God.
She told me, she's like, I dosed this guy and I think I'm going to stop doing it because he literally put my head in his hands and said, I could snap your neck right now. And she's like, all right, I think I'm good with
I mean, she was giving people that, and this isn't new information. She's talked about this on the podcast, but like she was giving people that like they would meet dudes on OkCupid. And they'd be like, come over. And these like innocent boys who had never done psychedelics, they'd be like, take a 10 strip with us of acid, which is something we've never even done. Like that's just like, that's something like high level wooks do. And yeah, they had a lot of wild experiences. They made a lot of cool friends. We made friends with some of those people that they met in that way. And wow, yeah, what a scene. It was like that was like our introduction to like before that we had tried mushrooms a few times and like it really engaged our spirituality. But then they started teaching us about acid, and that, like our introduction to acid was really through Ayla. She gave us 3 tabs each, and it blew my fucking brains off. And it's just also one of the best days of my life. Like I think back, it's hard to remember too. It was so fast. Everything was so intense and wild. But yeah, she's really she's a wild one. She's really taught us a lot.
She's obviously teaching a lot more people a lot.
Well, I mean, look, all judgments aside, how generous is that? You know, like these guys, like I'm pretty sure she's like big on OnlyFans now. I'm pretty sure that's how she makes her money. Like, can you imagine like you're like some dude who like can't get laid and you're obsessed with this internet girl.
You haven't lost your virginity.
You haven't lost your virginity, and she's like, oh yeah, come bang me. I'm like, it's okay.
We'll celebrate it. Imagine everyone their first time got like confetti.
You'd probably develop a weird fetish.
Wait, what's the thing he said as he entered her?
Leroy Jenkins.
What is that even?
It's like an old internet meme.
Oh.
It's like a thing that everyone thinks is funny.
Okay.
It's younger people than us.
Yeah, I'm too old for this shit.
I'm getting too old for this shit. But Ayla was like, it's weird. It's almost like her and I are like opposites.
Oh yeah.
So, but we never we sat. How many nights, how many hours did we sit and listen to Ayla argue with people and debate them and coax them into debates and take an opposite contrarian stance and this and that, and like for years, like we would just like witnesses, like, okay, here we go. And I'm like pretty much the opposite of her.
She's all head, you're all heart.
Yeah.
I don't know if it's the opposite. It's just different.
Yeah. But like her and I, for some reason, we never butt heads. Like we were always like very like kind of like respectful of each other.
Mutual respect, yeah.
Yeah, a lot of mutual respect.
She said like she said to you once, she's like, I just want to like consume you. Like I wish I could just eat you and consume you and just have what you like. I think she respected you so much that she's like, I just want to like consume you.
Yeah.
And I've seen other women and maybe men treat you like that, like, but they don't say it, and she just said it.
Oh yeah, she'll always say the thing.
She says the thing. I just want to like, I wish I could just eat you.
Yeah.
Or something. She said it probably in a more interesting way, but.
No, it was yeah.
But I know what that's like when you meet someone who you like respect, and you're like, I just wish I could take on all the characteristics and knowledge and whatever you have or whatever life experience and just like download it. Matrix or not Matrix. Oh yeah, Matrix style, where they put the thing in the back of your head.
Avatar style. Yeah, I mean, the way I would put that is like, I wish I could feel what it's like to inhabit your consciousness for a few minutes and like just like get in there and just like kind of see what's swirling around in there.
Oh,
get under the hood.
I don't want to get under anyone's hood.
Me neither.
I have enough
but that's
time.
how I would describe that feeling.
Oh, I think it's different. I think it's more consumerist.
Interesting.
Less experiential and more consumerist.
Yeah.
Like you have some superpower.
You have something I want.
Yeah, you have some superpower that's allowed you to be good at art or approach things or know how to like do certain things, and I wish I had that.
Well, I mean, because it would be interesting. Like she would sit there and like slay somebody over like politics or economics or their worldview and this and that, and like she would like kind of turn to me and I'd be like, oh, Ayla, that's not how it is, and she'd be like, oh, and just something about like how I was with her, like kind of dissolved all that, like the need for that. Maybe
in that moment, but people are who they are, Yeah. And I think she kind of crumbled around like, oh, she's not going to win an argument because you're coming from different places.
Yeah. Yeah.
So there's no like arguing with you in a way that will be satisfying because you're just fundamentally coming from like looking at the world in a different place, and it's whether it's like intellectual versus emotional. And those two things can work together, but there is some times where they kind of butt heads. Like you can intellectually make sense of pain and suffering, but then there's like the heart that cares about pain and suffering.
Yeah, yeah.
And then there's like it almost to me feels like everything and nothingness, the yin yang of that, where you're like, okay, yeah, there's nothingness, and we can just like talk about it and existentialize, and then there's like the real lived experience of being a human,
Yeah.
and we can, that's the feeling of it
Yeah, yeah,
that you can't
totally.
put into words, because there are no words that could do justice for all that we experience in life, that could boil it down into an intellectual expression or
Mm-hmm.
material expression, because it's beyond that. It's spirit, it's love, it's
Yeah.
kismet.
Well, it's like why it's like really it's hard for me and become harder for me to like hang my head on any kind of like one belief system or ideology or trust me, it's easier. It's much easier, but it leads to righteous stagnation, doesn't it? Like when you embrace it and just like take on like, oh yes, here's what I believe. This is a very reduced example, but like I'm a Democrat. They're better than Republicans. I get behind what the Democrats do. They fight for blah 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 and blah blah blah, and the Republicans are blah 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 blah. Like you're stuck in righteous stagnation. Like there shouldn't, and it sucks because it's kind of like why our politics is so righteously stagnated, is because it's just been reduced down to that, and it's hard for like new ideas or new concepts to get brought into the fold.
Well, I
But it
think
prevents you from growing. It's preventing us from growing.
we, as a people, fail to recognize where we come together. And I think it's like,
Yeah, yeah,
well, I'm mad at the politicians, and I'm like, well, I'm mad at the corporations because they own the
yeah,
politicians.
yeah,
And it just comes in. It's this climbing ladder of like, no, I can see higher because I'm on a higher ring than you, and I can see a better
yeah.
perspective because I have a bit better full picture of what's going on, and you're being taken advantage of for this reason or that reason. And it's like, I don't know. It just comes down to me to follow the money. You know,
Oh,
it's
absolutely.
always follow the money.
Like as fun and silly as it is to like pwn one political party and like be like, oh yeah, the Republicans are racist, xenophobic, nationalist, whatever, this and that, and like whatever you'd call the Democrats or the left in this country, which is just a goddamn mess. It's like it's so easy to kind of stay in that frame of mind about things, but it's like that's kind of the people that really run this world. That's the conversation that they hope we're stuck in. That's the level of righteous stagnation that they hope we're stuck in, because then we're not questioning like, well, beyond political parties, beyond even borders and nation states, corporations are running the show. And what's beyond that? Just like a handful of like oligarchs, and and they're enacting their agendas through corporations, and it doesn't.
And shareholders, and so it gets
Yeah,
spread out beyond just the. You can't even just say it's the 5, 7, 10, whatever. It's not a certain amount of people. It's like when you put it in, when our whole system and our
right.
401ks, or is that what they're called?
Mhm.
Um, are connected to the stock market. It's like, and shareholders, and it's like it goes from the guy who's making 100,000 to the guy who's making 100 million. It's everyone is invested in a certain thing succeeding and taking advantage of as many people as possible because they want to just. And that's my concern about. I wish we could have a government that looked out for people, but I think it's hard to get on the same page about what that means and how to do that without then corrupting for someone in the government or someone else to make money off of people.
Yeah, no.
It's like
I
you
know.
can't. We almost need to have a change of conscience,
Yeah,
like collectively, and
yeah,
a change of priorities away from me to we, away from money to like community. It's just like it feels like it's not going to happen. We can't kill one billionaire or have one person. It's not, that won't change it. It's like it's a sickness of heart and mind.
mm,
And I think this sickness is something that we get so angry about. We get angry at the billionaires for hoarding wealth and not caring. There was that Ruth Gottsman, I
mhm.
think is her name, who just gave $1 billion to do free tuition at this medical school that she had worked with for the students to.
It's where she went to school.
Yeah, and it was like a beautiful thing, and you just like see, wow, that's like a beautiful way that someone who comes into $1 billion or a billionaire could benefit not only those students, but those students having that education benefits everyone and not.
Yeah, their reaction says it all. Like, they were videotaping their reaction of her coming out and being like, I gave $1 billion donation to this school, and as of August, this school will now be tuition free. The kids flipped out because a chip just got taken off their shoulder that they could have never even imagined. That, like, whoa, I might be able to enter the workplace debt free. Think about, like, that was an auditorium full of a couple thousand kids freaking out because all their options for life just changed a little bit. You know, like, maybe I can take this education and do something good with it instead of peddling pills.
Exactly. Maybe I don't need to take the pharmaceutical
prescription,
but there's a way where they like pay off doctors or whatever, you know. Maybe I can. And everyone's so strapped that there's no way out except, you know, those backhand deals or whatever, looking out for yourself and looking out for your family because, well, your kid, I mean, how are your kids going to afford to go to college if you're not trying to get as much money as possible and trying to like make wiser decisions than other people in the stock market and put money into Boeing or, you know.
Yeah, that's where, like, when I think along that line, it's where I can start to not blame billionaires as much and just think they're infected with the same thing we're all infected with. Like, they're hoarding resources because that's the name of the game in our current game.
It's not unique to them, and
it's
it doesn't
not unique to them
doesn't come down from them.
Even if they got enough for them, they're thinking about, well, my family and friends could probably use a little bit of relief. You know, like how are my great grandkids going to get by in this crazy kill or be killed type of economy? How are they going to get by? So I think that's where that kind of comes in.
I need to build instead of making the world a better place, we need to build a bunker.
Yeah.
It's just a fear mentality, and imagine what it's like to live in that fear mentality.
Yeah.
Where you can't even see the forest through the trees. You can't see how watering other people's garden could allow you to live in a beautiful garden. I don't know.
In a better world.
Where you can see beautiful flowers, and maybe you don't see all the flowers, maybe you don't get the fruits of all of that watering, but there's a better world, and then a better world. I don't know. It's just so obvious.
But just think about it like as a squirrel hoarding nuts. Like, imagine there was a squirrel that was so adept at the game of hoarding nuts that it got every single one in the forest. And then all its little squirrel friends, family, strangers that are squirrels, didn't have anything, so they're kind of starving and dying. And this squirrel is sitting there with all of it. Doesn't that eventually lead to a worse existence for that thing? Yeah. There's no one to play with.
I mean,
There's no one to hang with. There's no one to chill with and smoke a blunt.
Yeah.
Like, what the heck are you doing?
Yeah. I mean,
I think that's what this woman's trying to prove. And of course it's a woman. And of course it wasn't her money. This was like her husband's grandfather's money that she inherited. Because I know because my mom works for the company.
I think it was her husband was invested in Berkshire Hathaway, real estate company early on.
Yeah.
Yeah, I mean, there's that aspect of it. And it's very lonely at the top, but it's also. I was gonna say something else. I don't know.
You do know, or you don't.
I don't know. We're just.
I don't know, man.
I don't know, man. I don't know, man. I think there's a way that we can kind of start to shift the paradigm collectively, and it's kind of required for things to change here. And I think it's like a compassion inducer, because it's so tempting to be angry at one person or one group of people or one country. And I'm not saying I'm not saying people shouldn't be held accountable and countries shouldn't be held accountable, and I'm not saying that, but I'm just saying to act like it's so. I don't know. I think we might be far off from this happening. It might have to get really bad before it's.
Oh, it's getting bad, baby.
It's getting bad.
It's getting bad.
It's bad.
Yeah, but you know, I think it can change, and the only reason I know this is because I'm changing.
Yeah.
That's all I can speak to, with any kind of righteousness, is like the changes I'm going through. Right now, I feel myself going through. Like taking a look at my indulgences and taking a look at like the chapters of my life and how indulgent I've been.
And how ultimately, and this is what I was going to get to, those indulgences kind of make you sick.
Yes.
At a certain level and a certain point. And I think it's so...
You become immune to them.
It's
the shit that they were setting off at first, you become immune to. And next thing you know, you're not chasing a high anymore. You're doing it like we learned when we were making Oxyana, and like people would take these pills, and I'm like, so how high are you? Or we'd watch somebody shoot up and be like, so how are you feeling right now? How high are you? And like, no, I just feel normal now. That's how these billionaires are with greed. You know, it started off as something that probably fucking lit up every part of their brain and like really fulfilled them in some way. And now it's just like chasing an addiction.
Yeah.
So that's why this is what I'm doing. I'm taking a look at my indulgences and the ways I've indulged over the years. And I feel like I'm just coming out. Like, it's probably longer than this, but like about a 7-year period of like crazy indulgence with sex, drugs, and rock and roll. I don't know what else to add. Without getting into specifics. If you listen to this podcast a lot, you know the specifics, but it's women, it's weed, it's psychedelics, it's drugs, it's running around, and it's just chasing something that like really you're chasing the dragon. And so I'm taking a look at that, and I'm like, okay, I'm not gonna become one of these teetotalers and like, reject all the things that I think make me feel alive, but I'm taking a tolerance break right now. And I think it's like I'm getting a clear-headed look at why I was a certain way and why I want to become a different way, and how useful the tools I was using to like escape and the dragon I was chasing, like how useful that could be if I could do it when I've really earned it, or when it's really appropriate. Like, how nice is it going to be to smoke a joint again at some point?
Yeah.
I don't know when. I don't know when I'll feel like, now's the time. It might never be. It might be in 5 days. It might be in 5 months. It might be in 5 years. Maybe never. But how nice is it going to be?
I hope it's not never. I'm ready.
Yeah. How nice is it going to be if we ever had like another threesome again, after like really just like pulling ourselves away from what was like pretty much 6 or 7 years of like throupling, and I'm not going to get into the details, but like what we were up to. Like how nice is that going to be? How differently will it hit? And maybe it won't. Maybe it'll hit like a bad dream, like like you're breaking your sobriety and it wasn't a good thing. But like I'm just the indulgence is it ultimately dulling the experience of my life and the brightness of my life, even down to the point where it's like dulling the experiences of the things I was using to get there, if that makes sense.
Well, things lose their luster, I think, is what you find.
What goes up must come down.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And I think what's been really hard to imagine I think there's a couple of things, and it starts super foundationally of like, well, we have a survival instinct, and we have an ego, and we have a self-protection mechanism, and we put our lives as, you're in this meat suit. It's hard not to prioritize making sure this meat suit doesn't get burned, or, whatever it is.
Transcending self-obsession and self-indulgence is like just a huge accomplishment when you think about it.
Well, I think the spectrum of mental health we might have just totally been kind of like when it's like your ladder's up against the wrong wall.
Mm-hmm.
Where we've so individualized our own experience. How do I feel? What's going on with me?
Mm-hmm.
That we've almost kind of made ourselves sicker.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. Well, look at us.
We're like, you need to respect me. And I think we've gotten so self-centered and self-identified that we're all like standing alone and being like, I'm alone. Like, we're all alone in this world of like, it's all about me, that we've lost sight of things. And I think that's like why it's so hard to imagine why someone would self-immolate, and why they would be so quick to say that's a mental health issue is because, and to me, when you look, that's not where I'm at, but I understand why someone would be there. And I understand why in this life, as crazy it is, and as much as you see what's going on, that you wouldn't be like, why is my life more important than like millions of other people's lives? And that's a real question that I think people need to not people don't need to do anything. I don't know what people need to do, but I think that's worth looking into.
Yeah.
What is your life worth? Is it what is your consumption habits worth? Is it worth the excessive plastic and the fossil fuels and you having this experience? And these are questions I have to ask myself, and I don't have the answer. Like, I try to consume less, but I mean we're an American. We are in the top 1% of consumers, and you can make $10,000 a year and still be like one of the richest people in the world, you know. I don't know what I'm talking about, but I just I don't know what's going on, but I
think that dude that self-immolated,
Aaron Bushnell,
we speak your name, man. That is a powerful thing to do.
Oh, yeah.
Because I think ultimately, like, when it comes down to is, like, when someone leaves this mortal coil, their life becomes like a symbol. And it's like, what do you want your life to become a symbol for? His life will always, his name, anytime someone speaks his name, will become a symbol for free Palestine. Isn't that beautiful?
Yeah.
Isn't that one of the, like, if you look back at, like, what we've now all deemed a complete travesty of a war, the Vietnam War, one of the lasting symbols of that war is the monk burning himself.
Yeah.
That's one of the one of the 2 or 3 images that come to mind when you think of the Vietnam War. And now we have one of those for free Palestine. It was a noble thing to do. And it's a hard thing to relate with because we love life so much. And
I relate with, I mean, I know I relate with it, but I also know I'd never do it. So it's this like weird thing of being like, mad respect, dude. Because courageous, because we so quickly will have people who just like drop bombs from planes, and we think,
yeah,
and we're just like, people are disposable, and people make a lot of money off of those bombs and the AI and the development of weapons and the destruction. And we think, you know, like, we have a right to do it because of our freedom. Fuck your freedom. I don't like, and this is where I start to sound crazy.
Well, your freedom is one of the indulgences. I think that keeps our better judgment from really coming forth.
And I'm not saying I want to be people that are so dramatic and extreme and like, well, you're saying that you want to live under communist rule and not,
no,
and, you know,
no,
it's like,
not at all. That's just another extreme.
I feel so inarticulate right now, but I know how I feel, and I know how it feels in my heart.
That's okay. Anyone listening can feel that.
Yeah.
You don't have to have the perfect words all the time.
Yeah.
At all. I could feel it. I could see that you're crying and you're upset. But
yeah.
We honor him, you know, and we honor all the Palestinians that have died and will continue to die.
Well, we're just like all gonna die. We're dead now. We're like barely alive. Like, I think people like say like, oh, that's so heart-wrenching that his life, and I'm not saying I don't have like heart for his life and his family and everything, but like, this life is like so wild and weird, and we're making decisions every nanosecond about who we are and what we put out into the world, and we think, I don't even know if you can get off this cycle of birth and death. Like, I honestly believe, like, but he was just like, he made a decision that it was like, my life is not more important than my message.
Yeah. And I think part of the reason you can so tap into that is because right now you're not overindulging or over-medicated or anything. And I think, like, part of the way that the big wheels keep on turning and all this death and destruction has become the name of the game, and we allow for it, is because confronting those feelings is so painful, and it's much easier to medicate and indulge your way away from having to confront that stuff.
Yeah, maybe you're supposed to.
But that's what life is.
Yeah.
And
that's what the human experience is.
That's what the human experience is.
And that's that's why I'm so proud of you that you've like made this decision that you're like, weed is my best friend. It's helped me medicate through this thing. It's helped me get through. And you're like, but I want to know who I am when I don't have that. Like, what do I need to go through?
If there's anxiety, I should feel that. And I should be able to take a look at the anxiety and make real changes, real material changes in my life to not feel that anxiety if I don't want to feel it. And the sense of accomplishment I'll have will hit that much harder.
Well, and I think the thing about doing that also is that pill or or weed or whatever it is, we're not talking shit. I really don't want to say we're talking
Do
shit.
what you got to do.
Do what you got to do.
Look, one of the main things I've ever said on this podcast is don't judge a man for what he has to do to get through the day. Like, you got to do what you got to do.
But I think what you sacrifice and what you trade is you're getting through today, but you have an opportunity to make today really freaking hard, but then you might have an easier time getting through the rest of your life.
Yeah.
So are you willing to trade some hard days, some hard months, some hard years for a life that's more in line and more integrity and more true to where you don't need something to medicate and you don't need something to make you feel calm because you're finding that source within yourself. You don't need to consume as much. You don't need to have as much anger or whatever it is that it could lead you to have. And I think we're reflecting on the indulgences in a state of sobriety because it's easy to see like, oh, there's always a balance. There's always another side of the coin, like to having a very chill life. And I think what we're finding ourselves in our 40s and get into my late 30s.
You're in your mid 30s.
I'm in my mid-30s.
Get real with yourself.
I'm not in my late 30s for another few more months.
Yeah.
Is like the middle way.
Yes.
You know, and I think we in our 20s and 30s we really wanted to live it up. We didn't want to live the middle way.
That's the time to do it.
We were like, let's fucking do it. Let's take
and
the
we
ticket.
Did it.
Let's take the ticket. Take the ride. Runaway Train. This girl is amazing. Let's spend as much time with her as possible. This truck is amazing. Let's do as much of it as possible.
Yeah,
you know what I mean? And I don't
totally.
regret any of it for a second.
No, that's what made us who we are.
And I don't know what tomorrow will bring, but this middle way is like, yeah, the highs aren't as high maybe, but the lows aren't as low.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm settling into it. It can be harder some days, but it's like I don't know.
It's easier for you, I feel.
It's
like.
it's where I'm at now.
Like as people that spend all their time together, it seems a little easier for you.
Yeah.
Like you see what I'm dealing with, like every night around a certain time, when the household we live in starts just getting crazy intense, and I'm just like I'm taking deep breaths. I'm learning how to regulate my nervous system better without, drugs or distractions or whatever. I still have a lot of distractions, but without turning to drugs, because it's like, I see our problems getting worse, like individually and as a society, when we can't take a look at them, when you can't take a sober look at them, when you can't feel the feelings that come along with supporting a genocide. Like, how are you going to do anything about it? And I think like right now it's so sad that the generations, probably your generation and younger, doesn't know a way, doesn't know a life of like, oh, you take it on the chin. Life has its little ups and downs. You learn to surf them. You learn to smooth that out. And it's really hard to do.
It's not supposed to be easy, you know?
No. And I think there's a lot of spiritual grifters that are out there, like peddling like nonstop 24/7 bliss. And it's just like, that's not why we took form. I don't believe. I don't think that's like what we're here to do, is to just be fucking blissed out all the time. I think that there's things that are really difficult to deal with and take a look at. And if you haven't had the pleasure of having life throw those things at you, it's going to.
We're all going to die, and we're all going to see the people around us die. And
yeah.
And get old, and
come into terms with that stuff in a real way. I think like there's something to that. I can only just speak from my individual experience, and I think that like instead of having a life of mindless self-indulgence, I'll maybe carve out a time or two per year that it's like, oh, it's mindless self-indulgence day or weekend or whatever. Like, call up that girl, let's get crazy, But I think for the most part, I'm learning a lot more, and like it's crazy because it's like I had these downloads. Like you haven't had the pleasure of losing anyone close to you yet. And when I lost my sister, something like, it's almost like the me of right now knew to send grace back to that 26-year-old like grieving motherfucker, because I knew to lock it up right away. I was like, no drinking. I didn't even know about weed at that time. Weed started when I was like 30 when I met you.
You knew about it.
I knew about it, but I wasn't. It wasn't a factor in my life. I didn't have it. I didn't have access to it. I didn't care about it. But drinking and partying and philandering and running around was, and I locked it up. I knew to lock it up I gave myself a grace period to really just feel it. Just feel it.
That's what it feels like.
I don't know how I knew to do that other than like this motherfucker sent that back.
It doesn't have
grace.
It doesn't have to be like your sister even. Like there's like mass death happening all the time in this world. And
absolutely.
Like it's
you can tap into it.
It's okay to feel it.
Yeah, it's okay to feel it.
It's okay
to feel it.
And let it transform you and let it like melt your heart.
Yeah. Let it smash your heart into a million pieces and just feel the helplessness and the hopelessness and the despair and tap into that. Because it'll make you a better person. I don't know. I think it'll make you more aware. I think it raises your consciousness, the practices we're talking about.
Well,
I think seeking, like I'm saying, these spiritual grifters peddling like blissed out all the time, watching a line on a graph go up and up and up. It's just another form of that self-indulgence. It's just like another form of like medicating away what you might want to consider taking on the chin. I don't think it's not for everyone. And there's a lot of people that can skate through life and never truly feel the feels. But we're artists, and our art is about bringing people together and like holding up mirrors. And so I need to be in touch with that. As tough as some days can be and as tough as some moments can be.
That said, it's been the easiest part of our relationship. Like,
what do you mean?
I think we've had the most best days.
There's less static on the frequency.
Yeah.
We're not competing with look at the most extreme example, like a drug couple, like people that are just like doing crack together and running around this now. What are they doing? They're just like screaming and yelling and fighting at each other all the time. They're indulging in like those like mind fuck lower frequencies of life, and it doesn't look very fun. It doesn't look like something I want to be involved with. And like, it's not like we're not going to fight, and it's not like we don't get into it. It's not like we don't,
Yeah, but we make up faster. I mean, we've always been quick to make up.
Well, that's what I think that this practice is helping do. It's like, it's helping just smooth things out. And it's helping, like we were saying when we took acid, we're like, oh, whoa, I'm meant to be here and feel this and do that. And like, it's helping me acquire some new tools. Like, the tools that I had through my 30s were like, oh, wow, what's this novel new substance that can make me feel different? Oh, wow, well, that's the answer. Like, well, damn, mushrooms are the answer, acid's the answer, what next? Nitrous is the answer, kratom is the answer, feeling different is the answer, this girl is the answer, expanding our relationship is the answer. And it's just like, getting down with like, there are no answers. We're in it just like a confusing kind of chaotic realm of reality, and like kind of learning to like surf that and ride the wild and breathe through things is like, it feels better. And like I'm saying, like, I'm not only having good days by a long shot. I'm not only having good days, but my worst days are a little bit smoother than they used to be. My best days are a little bit smoother than they used to be. And they've reaped less of a consequence on my body and my soul. So I'm getting down with this. I'm remembering my dreams every night. Like that, I think that's important for an artist.
Yeah, you stopped even doing edibles, which I didn't know if you would get to that place, but
there's levels to this thing. There's levels where you're going to stop even getting my sex. No, I don't know. I could keep that on the table. But even that, I've smoothed it out. Like, I think like when I first stopped doing weed, I was like taking it out on your pussy, and like, you're so goddamn, you're there for me, and you're all about it, which is really rad. But like now I'm just like, I'm using you as the example because it seems like you need less to feel more in life. And I'm like, okay, Cass is onto something, maybe I don't need as much sex as I thought.
Well, remember when we did ayahuasca that first time and we really did the 2 weeks? Was it 3 weeks that we really didn't relate in that way?
Yeah.
And the time we went to relate again, we were like, oh my God.
Sex is acid.
Yeah.
What the fuck?
And what are we doing? Like throwing this energy around. This is a
I know.
huge exchange.
Yeah. Yeah, I remember that. Yeah.
Like we have a lot of our energetic body.
No, and I can even feel right now me clinging to, like, come on, let me have my things in this life.
No, it's not about not doing it. It's about
It's about doing it only once a month.
No, I'm not even.
Kidding.
I'm not even talking about in the realm of sobriety. I'm just more talking about the awareness of, by taking a little space from it, and maybe it was the ayahuasca too, like still in our system of that energy, but just like being like, whoa, there can be a deeper. The more quiet you are, the more you quiet down, the more there is to see and hear.
Mm.
Oh, you've been saying this to me the last couple of days, and I've been loving it actually for a couple of weeks now, and I just like it's my mantra almost.
Yeah.
Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And I love that because
That really works on you.
it really even in this podcast I'm like I was a little fast to start off. I couldn't even get my thoughts. I'm like stumbling over myself, but it's like, and then you start talking, it's like slowing me down, and I'm like getting to my breath again, and I'm like, oh yeah. Slow is smooth, smooth is fast. And to break that down the way I had to when you first said it, because I had to say it a couple times to understand what it even means, is like, if you go slow, it's more smooth. And when it's more smooth, you're going to go faster.
Yeah.
And with anything, it relates to pretty much everything and anything.
Absolutely.
Because the rocky roads take you on wild detours.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Well, because I was telling you, like, maybe we could talk about it on the Patreon. Like,
Okay.
just reveal. No, I'm saying, like, reveal what the thing we've been working on is, and like, because it's kind of exciting. I don't know. Some people might get off on it, but like, we're working on like the biggest like paid gig that we've ever had, and it's like it's a behemoth. It's a lot of stuff. It's a lot. Like, we've done a lot of commercials and stuff, but this is like a big boy.
Not the biggest money, but the biggest, like, whoa, we're taking on a big project.
Yes. Yeah, we're taking on a lot. And, you know, every day, because I know how it can get. And, like, I'll hitch my wagon to your runaway train of, like, producing and thinking ahead. And, oh, we got to do. And it can get very, like, feel like that. And it's just like, that doesn't help me direct. That doesn't help me pull things out of people that I want to get. That doesn't help me, like, get the shots right and everything. So it's almost like this mantra came down for that reason, is to kind of like remind ourselves, like, because I've been saying it all along, I just didn't have those words for it yet. I've been saying all along, like, one thing at a time. We don't have to get ahead of ourselves. I will crush it at this project if we just take it, like, if we just write in the calendar, here's all the stuff we need to do, but here's all I can do today. Here's all I can do right now. The rest of the day, we'll get to it when we get to it. And that's like when things get my focused attention, like, I'm better than most at what we do. And I just didn't want it to become a runaway train, because I see how we have in the past treated each other on like big commercial jobs.
Mm-hmm.
And it's because of that, because you cast your net of anxieties way onto the future and you pull back shit. And I'm just like, why are you doing that? And it's just like, we're butting heads. And I'm like, there's got to be some mantra that can help us meet in the middle somewhere, because your job is anticipation and you know, like, thinking about things before they happen and figuring out how to do this and that. So slow is smooth, smooth is fast, I think helps bridge what can be sometimes a really wide gap between us professionally.
Mm-hmm.
But it applies to everything. We were talking about this yesterday. You know, we had I think we talked about it when we used to be with Mare. We did a long car ride once, and she's like, I'll drive. And she takes over, and it's pouring rain, like sheets of rain where you can't even see out the goddamn windshield. She's going like 110 miles an hour and passing people and flipping people off, and you and her are fighting in the front seat. You're like, stop flipping people, and you're like hitting each other, and like, it was just like insanity. And to the point where we're like, can we pull off? Like, I have to use the bathroom. And even though we didn't, like, we pulled off and we like switched drivers. And like when we pulled off, like, you and I are like hugging each other and holding each other, like, oh my God, thank God we're still alive. Like, holy shit. Like, just taking this time to calm down our nervous system. All the time that she thought we were saving got wasted at that rest area. And if it didn't get wasted at that rest area, the few seconds she shaved off by driving like a maniac, if it didn't get wasted at that rest area, it got wasted in the 3 days after that. We were continuing to butt heads about this. Driving too fast isn't safe, and just like the disagreements and this and that is like, hey, you were driving to try to save us time that we've then wasted in recovering from what that took out of us, you know? No fault of hers. Like, she's grown since. She never drove bad a day after that. Just, I mean, like, that's just to throw her some credit. Like, she evolved. She saw how scared we were. But it's such a perfect prime example of, like, okay, you think you're saving money by driving really fast. You're endangering everyone on the road. Our nervous systems are totally shot. And now we're fighting about this. Think about how much time we've wasted.
Well, or you drive fast, you think you can get away with it, you get pulled over, and then you lose all that time. You are like rushing a meal, you burn yourself, you've cut your finger, you then have to deal with that. It's like, if you don't do things right,
you don't stretch and jump into your exercise, you pull a muscle, now you can't exercise anymore. I'm dealing with some shit like that. You know what I mean?
No, totally.
Yeah, just it goes across the board, and like, yeah, I don't know. I just like when I feel into, like, you know, the generation that's coming up now that's starting to, you know, like, come into their own, Gen Z, you know, the millennials are really coming into their own, but Gen Z, like, these are the hands down the most anxiety filled generations, and it's not their fault. It's not their fault. I think that the reason that they're so filled with anxiety isn't that the world is a worse place, because the world was a fucking shitty place for the generations before us, just in different ways. I think it's because we're medicating away our experience and parts of our experience, the parts of our experience that we deem not worth feeling. We're medicating it away, and it's, like we said on the last podcast, it's like sweeping stuff under the rug. Where did it go? It's still there. It's still in the room. Eventually, it's going to be rotting out. Eventually, you're going to be like, what the fuck is that smell? And those chickens come home to roost. So I can only speak from my own experience as, like, getting off even for a minute the train of the wild runaway train that is, like, the American experience of, like, medicate, distract, keep it going. There is something way smoother on the other side of that, where you're letting a lot more into your awareness. And I feel like that's where we start to gain the tools as a society on how to start to deal with like we were saying, the very few that control the very many. We become much more aware of them.
Yeah.
I think when we're not just medicating away the symptoms of the shit world that they've put us in.
Well, yeah, I mean, it goes back to righteous stagnation. You think you're getting off by telling someone how they're wrong, and you're moving the needle forward, when you're just, you're literally going to stagnate in a dance of egos, rather than calming down and being like, all right, well, what can I do?
Yeah.
Like, what do I actually have? What actually can I do to envision a better world? And what small step can I do to, like, try to see that world through, rather than the fighting that you and I would do, or anyone, is just like fighting with yourself. Oh, you're such a piece of shit, or you fucked that up, or blah, blah, blah. Like, the fighting isn't even just out here, it's in here. Yeah. Fighting in your thoughts and whatever. You calm it down, and you can actually take stock and make movement. And it doesn't have to be everything at once, and you're not behind the 8 ball. It's like, it's incredible how much we can accomplish when we slow down.
Yeah.
And do one thing at a time.
Yeah. Which was my point going into this job. And I think now we're kind of, like, finding the words for it and the purpose behind it, because I think, like, I didn't know why I kind of started a little bit of a sobriety journey. And I've said that, I've expressed it on many days. I'm like, I don't know why I'm doing this. I'm not having a good day right now. I don't know who this is for. And it starts to, like, really come into focus the more time you give it. Like, I'm doing this for me.
Yeah.
I'm doing this for all of humanity. But who knows? I don't know. I might need a gangbang at the end of it to just to feel a little something. Yeah.
Totally. That's hilarious.
Yeah. Join us on patreon.com/churchofchill. We'll keep talking a little bit more. We love you. And it means the world to us when people join our community and we get to, like, talk to them and be friends with them and become aware of them.
We hope to get affected, but we do get affected by people as much as I hope that we affect them. So
yeah, give us your opinion. Tell us we're full of shit.
We love it.
Yeah, we love it. Well, you know what really loves it? The algorithm.
The algorithm
Yeah,
loves
get on
it.
there and tell us we're full of shit, and then somebody inevitably will be like, no, they're not. They're so sweet.
Hopefully.
Yeah, I don't
Or
know.
at least you will be like, whatever.
I'll be like, stop, don't judge me. Come on.
Come on.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Come on, man.
Oh, and how about Biden calling for immediate ceasefire? After we we should cut this off.
What do you mean?
It's just how about that we're there. I'm about to get righteously indignant about where we're at and the failures of our government, but it's all exactly
we could talk about that a little bit.
What's designed to happen. What we did to Rashida Tlaib was I can't even.
I don't even know. I don't know.
And we're not going to talk about this on Patreon. I want to talk about this orgasm study that I found out about.
Ooh, yes. We'll talk about orgasm studies, and we'll talk about the orgasm studies we've done in our own life. How's that sound? Does that sound scintillating enough? Is that even a word?
Titillating? Tantalizing?
Tantalizing and titillating and scintillation.
And scintillating's a good new word.
Yes.
All right. Peace, love, and magic.
Patreon.com/Church of Chill. Peace, love, and magic.